I'm not making fun of you, Mo. Honestly, I love this cover. Hello, my lovely people. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel again. If you're new here, hi, my name is Cece. Thanks for stopping by. Today I want to share with you the 2 TBRs for the 2 Readathons that I am taking part and or co-hosting in the month of May. And because some of them can be doubled up between the 2 Readathons, I'm especially excited about it. I will be talking first about the Ally-A-Thon and how my books that I picked are fulfilling the prompts. And immediately when talking about a book, I will also let you know how this might double up for the Asian Readathon. And then I think I have 2 extra books that I'm reading for the Asian Readathon that just landed on my TBR somehow. All right, let's get started. The first prompt of the Ally-A-Thon is read a book with God or Allah in the title. And for that, I am reading The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. I'm so looking forward to the conclusion of the Poppy Wars. I think that this is a very heavy-hitting, hard, dark fantasy. It has very real topics about war, and I have really appreciated so far how this series has talked about some real aspects about war. Things like what happens to the normal people after the big bad leader has been replaced, removed, whatever. Some of these kind of topics, things that happen to people in the war. This book, or at least this series so far, has felt super real and comes with quite a few trigger warnings. So if you're interested in a good fantasy based on some Asian history, to be specific, the Opium Wars, this is an amazing series, but you need to consider trigger warnings before diving in, because oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. This also doubles up in the Asian Readathon. We have a Chinese author, and I believe that this could cover the prompt as well as being non-US centric. The next book for the Ally-A-Thon is for the prompt and number 5 in the page count, and I was really having a hard time finding a book for that. I was trying to find a Muslim inclusion book or an Asian book, but I couldn't. So I am using this to read the network effect, which is part 4 or 5 of the Murderbot Diaries. So far, I have really enjoyed the Murderbot Diaries, where we are following this AI that has gone rogue and is actually created for one thing, but has kind of developed a mind of their own. There's some really humoristic approaches and some unique view on the world. I love that series. Also, getting into the series is pretty quick because they are quite short novellas that are quick and easy to read. I think 5 is a full-length novel, but I'm super excited to dabble more into this world. So far, every single read has been fabulous, and I'm really looking forward to diving further into that series. The next prompt in the Ally-A-Thon is read a used book, and for this I have chosen The Book of the Night Women. Born into bondage in the corrupted paradise of a sugar plantation at the end of the 18th century, a time of uprising and rebellion, Lilith has little hope of escaping a life ruled by the whip. But like the slave women who fear her, the instant she opens her eyes, Lilith sees life differently. Here is a sweeping, startling tale, overflowing with high drama and heartbreak. The action centers on the conspiracy of the Night Women, a clandestine council of fierce slaves plotting an island-wide revolt. This is really hitting that spot right now. Also, this is a traveling book, which means that we have this group in Germany of people who read a book and then they pick a color, and this has been read by one person. So we have one person who has added comments in their color, and then you pass it on. In this way it feels like you're reading this together. Sometimes people also draw on it and stuff. Look at this, for example. It's really fun way, and it is used because already 2 people have read this before me. The next prompt in the Ally-A-Thon is read something in the sunshine, and I will be reading The Weight of Our Sky in the Sunshine. The Weight of Our Sky is playing in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, I believe, to be exact. Melody Ahmad has imagined her mother's death countless times. Plagued by gruesome thoughts she believes are put into her head by a jinn, Melody has developed an intricate set of tapping rituals to tame the monster within and keep her mother safe. But there are things that Melody can't protect her mother from. On the evening of May 13, 1969, racial tensions in her home city of Kuala Lumpur boil over. The Chinese and Malays are at war, and Mel and her mother become separated by a city in flames. With a 24-hour curfew in place and all all lines of communication down, it will take the help of a Chinese boy named Vincent and all of the courage and grit in Miladi's arsenal to overcome the violence on the streets, her own prejudices and her djinn's surging power to make it back to the one person she can't risk losing. I love the idea of this book mixing history and some culture that I'm not very familiar with and some mental health issues. I think that this is potentially a really interesting read. This is also a Muslim author as far as I know, because it was listed on some of the Muslim author representation lists, and that is how it got my attention. And it plays in Malaysia, and I believe that the person who wrote this is also of Malaysian descent. So this doubles up in the Asian Readathon, as I have put it down as not US centric as well. The next prompt for the Ally-A-Thon is read a book by a Muslim author, and for that I'm going to be reading The Bad Muslim Discount. This is more of a funny historical. Is it really historical? Yeah, I think by now you can call 1995 historical. I'm so old, but I think, yeah. Following two families from Pakistan and Iraq in the 1990s to San Francisco in 2016, The Bad Muslim Discount is an inclusive comic novel about Muslim immigrants finding their way in modern America. I'm super pumped for this, and I love this cover. Or like Paperback Mo would say, and look at that cover. Did I do it right? Well, if not, I might have another one to practice this with. This also doubles up in the Asian Readathon because we have Pakistani and Iraq representation, and I believe the author is Pakistani. Yeah, he grew up in Karachi, Pakistan. I have it down as Asian protagonist because we have families from Pakistan and Iraq in here. The next prompt on the Ally-A-Thon is read a book with a Muslim main character, and for that I'm going to be reading our group book Once Upon an Eid. I feel like this is the perfect book to be considered with a Muslim main character because we're talking Ramadan, we're talking Eid. We have a fantastic middle grade anthology collection of stories of hope and joy with 15 different Muslim voices, and I'm so excited to dive into this, especially because it's the group book. And I already love this book because look at that cover. I'm not making fun of you, Mo. Honestly, I love this cover. For the Asian Readathon, I have this down for India because one of the main editors, curators, and also having written a story is from India, and I have it as favorite genre. Why do I have it as favorite genre? I don't know, but it feels right. It just feels right. The next prompt for the Ally-A-Thon is read something out of your comfort zone, and for this I have picked A Blessed Olive Tree, which is a spiritual journey in 20 short stories. I have picked this because I feel like as part of the Ally-A-Thon and wanting to understand more about the Islamic culture, wanting to learn more about Ramadan and about the festivals that go around it, I feel like it would be a good idea to read a book that teaches me a little bit more about the Islamic culture and what's behind the 5 pillars of Islam. And I have found this little book, which is really, it's a 124-25 pages book, and it is a series of short stories that will take you on a spiritual journey. It begins by exploring the reasons for existing, and then it moves on to highlight the reasoning behind the 5 pillars of Islam. I feel like this is the perfect opportunity for me to learn more about Islam, but it's also out of my comfort zone because, one, I don't like short stories much, and I have 2 anthologies this month. It's a little bit mind-boggling, but I think that this month is going to be a good month for short stories. Also, it takes me on a spiritual journey, and I'm not much of a person to read spiritual literature or to get inspired spiritually with my literature that I'm reading, but I feel like for the purpose of this Ally-A-Thon, it's just the right thing to do. This also would double up for the Asian Readathon as a Pakistani author. I believe that this person, when I looked it up, is Pakistani, and also as Asian main protagonist. I think that's what I put it down for the Asian Readathon. The next prompt for the Ally-A-Thon is a book that was gifted to me, and for this I want to read Internment. Internment is a near future, terrifying, thrilling, urgent story that gives a voice to some current topics, and it sounds super intriguing. It was gifted to me so to speak, because it was in one of the subscription boxes. In my life and how my life currently is set up, I don't have very many opportunities that I get gifts for. I don't get many gifts for like my birthday or Christmas or other festivities. So I usually end up with not having many gifts on my shelf that I could pick from. In this case, I just consider anything that's in a surprise in a book box to me as a gift. Sorry, but that's the only way for me. Rebellions are built on hope. In a horrifying near-future United States, 17-year-old Layla Amin and her parents are forced into an internment camp for Muslim American citizens. With the help of new friends also trapped within the internment camp, her boyfriend on the outside, and an unexpected alliance, Layla begins a journey to fight for freedom, leading a revolution against the camp's director and his guards. Heart-racing and emotional, internment challenges readers to fight the complicit silence that exists in our society today. If not for the Ally-A-Thon, when then? I mean, this seems like a perfect fit, and I am so pumped to read this. I'm so looking forward to read this, and yeah, I mean, come on, it sounds perfect for awareness and everything. The next prompt for the Ally-A-Thon is a 5-star prediction, and for that I'm going to be reading Rumaiza, a fairy tale, which just sounds such a perfect thing to read. Just imagine like a South Asian fictional country and some European fairy tales twisted on its head to be in that cultural setting. Just listen to this. This funny and empowering story weaves together 3 classic fairy tales into one new adventure with an unusual structural twist. Rumaiza is a Muslim girl who lets her hijab down from a tall tower in order to escape. Set in a magical version of South Asia, Rumaiza explores enchanted forests and dragon lairs, teaming up with Cinderella and Sleeping Sarah along the way to create a strong sense of sisterhood. Doesn't it just sound perfect? I love it. I love it. It just sounds, oh, perfect. Last but not least, we have the prompt, a book that has been recommended to me, and for this I am going to be reading Habibi, which is a graphic novel filled with stories about Islam and Christianity. I consider this recommended to me because I was specifically looking for recommendations for a graphic novel that includes something about Muslim culture, about Islam, about potentially Ramadan or Eid to add to my TBR. So not all of the 10 books that I am going to attempt to read in a 2-week span are going to be heavy novels. And then I came across this and it just screamed at me. I mean, first of all, look at that cover. Still not making fun of you, Mo. I love that. Like, I feel like, honestly, I'm just thinking of you when saying it, but I mean it. Habibi is sprawling across an epic landscape of deserts, harems, and modern industrial clutter. Habibi tells the tale of Dodola and Zam, refugee child slaves bound to each other by chance, by circumstances, and by the love that grows between them. At once contemporary and timeless, Habibi gives us a love story of astounding resonance, a parable about our relationship to the natural world, the culture divide between the first and the third worlds, the common heritage of Christianity and Islam, and most potently, the magic of storytelling. I'm super excited for this one. I think that there's a lot of potential in this. It can go wrong because I'm not a romance reader, but I think that this is the perfect addition to the Ally-A-Thon TBR. Now, this is everything for the Ally-A-Thon, but I have 3 more books that I am attempting to read for the Asian Readathon, potentially then in the first half of the month. But honestly, that order might be decided by first sentence TBR. If you haven't seen that so far, check it out. I do a monthly first sentence TBR where I get the first sentence and then I predict what rating it is going to have. And aside from having to read certain books at a certain time for a group discussion or having to read them in a certain time frame for Readathon, the rating that I predict is going to predict the order that I read it in. So if the first sentence in Habibi gives a 5-star and the first sentence in The Bad Muslim Discount I'm predicting a 2-star, I'm gonna have to read Habibi first. Go check that out because I think it's so much fun. So the other 3 books that I am planning to attempt to read for the Asian Readathon is Super Fake Love Song, which came up as a pick in my TBR game that I just started and that I am so grateful that Mel from Completely Melanie helped me come up with. Well, she pretty much came up with it because I was so creatively at a 0.0 and I really wanted to do a TBR game, and she has so many crazy ideas. Like, she has so many ideas that it was like coming to a TBR game bar and just picking the right thing for me. Like, honestly. she's amazing. And I completely forgot to thank her for the idea. I was so excited to get started with it. I had it on the top of my list to do a shout out, and then I completely missed it, and I feel so bad about it. But I'm going to make up for it by mentioning her in every other video from now on for at least a year or so. I don't know. But in the TBR game, this one got picked, and this doubles up as a book for the Asian Readathon because it is written by David Yoon, who I believe is Korean American. So this calls for an Asian author. And also look at that cover. Damn, I love this cover. I always love like romancy covers or middle grade covers, and then I don't necessarily love the content. I don't know. My taste in covers differs from the taste in what I like to read. I need all these wonderful fluffy girly covers that you can see at Chick Lit to actually be like super deep, heavy hitting science fiction, please. The second book is the book that I'm going to be reading for the Spilling Tea book club, which is the 100 Secret Senses by Amy Tan. And with this, we are covering, I believe, Chinese protagonist, if I'm not wrong. I have to read that at the beginning of the month because the discussion is already in a week. But yeah, I'm super looking forward to that. And then last but not least, we have Japanese representation. And I believe this is the only nonfiction that I was able to find to add to my TBR that I can complete in a decent amount of time. And that is George Takei's They Call Us Enemy. And honestly, I have been wanting to read this for the longest time. And thank you for giving me just the right excuse to finally do it. Very simplistic, but beautiful. You probably couldn't see a thing. Anyways, this is it. This is it for today. I am so excited to see everybody else's TBRs, and yeah, let me know if any of my books are on your TBR as well, if you want to add one to your TBR now that you have seen this. And I hope to see you again on my channel very soon. Until then, bye!
Just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop the time, don't you know that